Hi everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and this is actually pretty amazing. Now, if you've ever played Pokemon Go or Ingress by a company called Niantic, heads up to you because this is literally tracking you as they build a massive database, and this is amazing, scary, and just quite frankly insane. So, as I mentioned, Niantic, they're a developer, and they basically created the super popular Pokemon Go back in like 2016 or so, and they just announced last week that they are building an artificial intelligence model to map the physical world. This is a large geospatial model, quote unquote, and it's utilizing data from basically Pokemon Go and Ingress, their two games, in order to achieve spatial intelligence. And so, as I mentioned, Pokemon Go has been around forever, about 2016 or so, and essentially it's an augmented reality game. If you don't know what it is, where players can use their mobile phones to find and catch virtual Pokemon in the real world. You know, I used to see kids actually in parks, although they were on their phones, because they found some like amazing, rare Pokemon or whatever they had to go catch, and so they're picking up their phones, and essentially what you could see on the phone, they would overlay like a Pokeball or Pokemon or whatever in front of it, and you would capture it. But you were also capturing a whole bunch of data because they were taking those pictures and your geospatial points, meaning your GPS coordinates, and basically creating this system. There were more than 600 million downloads of this since its release, and basically, like I said, you could go different places. It would basically take you to places where you would be driving around, and if Niantic essentially needed that information for that location, that's where they'd put something that you would want to get in the game, so you would go take pictures of it and play this interactive game. And so Niantic's model was training, and still is going for the record, is training and processing this data using your geolocation from these scans that you were submitting in the real world while playing Pokemon Go, Ingress, and anything else Niantic was putting out. And so over the past 5 years, they've been building this visual positioning system, or VPS, and I quote, which uses a single image from a phone to determine its position and orientation using a 3D map built from people scanning interesting locations in our games and Scaniverse, end quote. So that's essentially it. Oh, they needed places, I don't know, they haven't done Central Park in New York. Well, now they're going to put a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to want in that game. You're going to go there, and then you're basically going to take pictures for them as they have your GPS as it relates to the pictures that you're taking. And they're getting it from every angle. There were instances, I remember, where they would have some rare thing that I would hear about, and like 1,000 people would show up and take pictures all over this place. And so it wasn't just one person. They were getting mapping data from flippin' everywhere. And I think that is insane. But what they're not really talking about, and what I don't hear publications talking about, is this is a massive privacy issue. They literally are capturing your data to use to build a geospatial database to essentially sell to others. You're actually paying for things in the game as well, as a lot of people bought these Pokeballs and like all this kind of stuff. And so they were making money while enabling basically 600 million of you to go through and basically make them more money by giving them personal data so you could play this game. And there were a lot of complaints back in the day about how this was just killing battery life. And yeah, because they were collecting an enormous amount of data. It wasn't just the graphics they were overlaying into the real world. They can strip those out so they get a clear picture of what you're taking a picture of and your GPS location. And so with that, let's talk about VPSs, or visual positioning systems, because your data is now caught up in this, especially if you've played any one of these games. And so first thing, let's talk about some critical points about what a VPS actually is. So for the first thing, it relies on visual cues. Unlike GPS, which is basically points on a map, VPS uses visual features like buildings, signs, textures to basically determine location and then link it to your GPS coordinates. It requires a camera. And so a device like a camera is needed to capture basically and have the VPS system analyze this. So now you've got your sea of sensors camera, your iPhone, your Android, whatever. You're going to this location, you're taking a picture for them, and they have it basically mapped to the GPS as well. And so it builds a database of known locations. VPSs require a pre-populated database of images and corresponding locations for accurate positioning. And so when these 600 million users were going out around the world to wherever Niantic wanted them to go, or wherever they would find these things, they would basically take the pictures to build this massive database. And so by virtue of that, it also has indoor functionality as well, because a VPS can function effectively indoors when oftentimes GPS signals are weak or blocked. So you have, let's say, an existing building that probably is never going to change in structure, like, I don't know, the Empire State Building or the Sears Tower or the, somewhere else indoors that is pretty iconic. You start mapping that visually, you're going to have basically a record that is going to persist over time. You might change the decor, but the pillars in the building don't change. And so this is really interesting. And by virtue of that, there is a ton of practical applications that Niantic can sell and make billions doing. So if you think about it, as I mentioned, indoor navigation, precise tracking within buildings like shopping malls, airports, museums, that kind of stuff could provide directions and overlays. We see some of that like in airport apps where you can use like the American app or the United app or whatever, and it will show you a visual, rendering of, okay, here's the terminal, you need to get to your next gate, that kind of thing. On top of it, we've got more augmented reality applications. So you can overlay this digital information into the real world through a smartphone, camera, all of that. It can provide directions or product information or interactive experiences based on this. So you're going through your local Target or whatever, you see a picture of something, or you see something that you're interested in, you overlay the VPS app on your phone, and maybe it gives you more interactive understanding of it, not just scanning a barcode, but it can see and understand this and therefore give you an experience with that before you purchase it. On top of it, mobile marketing is absolutely going to be huge because delivering location-based promotions and targeted advertising to users based on their real-time positions is going to be something that is absolutely there. So it understands you're walking by something visually, or you're walking by, let's say, your local favorite retail store. It can ding you and basically say, hey, like, pop up this app, take a look at this, and it will start giving you visual cues inside the location of where you can go to buy the specific product it knows you like. On top of it, we have things like accessibility aids, obviously. So, if there's an impairment for an individual, it can assist visually on those kinds of things, providing visual cues and directions. And you can also do like things like visual tours with this kind of stuff as well. So it can create an interactive tour of a location, overlaying information on real-time camera views. Like we see that in some museums where they give you a headset and it's kind of like radio cued and it knows you're in proximity to like the painting or whatever you're looking at. Well, this would take it one step further by basically you can use your camera to overlay and the VPS would know exactly where you are. You're looking at the Mona Lisa. Now it's going to give you relevant information in an augmented reality form. But the main thing here, and what the real moneymaker is going to be, is the military, because the military loves themselves some VPS, and I don't care what military it is. So think about this. And this is the most troubling one, I think, right now, given what we have, is basically urban combat navigation. This could be used for pacification of urban environments. And so basically, if you have an insurgency, a VPS could help the military out. Precise location tracking in urban environments where GPS signals may be disrupted by buildings. If you've ever driven through downtown like Chicago or New York or something, you know that is a thing. This would help. So imagine that augmented reality that a combat soldier has, as they're basically doing concrete combat, going from building to building, fighting insurgents, whatever that is, that would aid the military. On top of it, it would enhance night vision. That would be another thing. So you could integrate a VPS with a night vision system to provide enhanced situational awareness. And so if you've ever seen or looked through night vision goggles, they're not oftentimes that clear, but now you're starting to overlay the actual structure of a building so you understand, much faster at a glance in real time, if the building is secure or not, or where the structures are. On top of it, you've got UAVs or unmanned aerial vehicles, basically the navigation precision that this would have for things like drones in complex environments without relying on GPS would be basically a much more accurate drone in terms of lethality, right? So GPS, you can kind of float, you're within 10 feet, 100 feet, depending on GPS signal. But if you are also backing that with visual cues from a VPS database, now you can actually pinpoint a target, a building, whatever it is, for mass destruction and accurate destruction as well. Search and rescue operations, there you go, locating visual individuals inside disaster areas and zones using visual landmarks and cues. If a building is half burned out, bombed out, fallen, airplane hits it, whatever it is, that might have been really good on 9/11. We might have been able to save more people, so that's not bad. And then, of course, mission planning and rehearsal as well. So combat simulations would be a lot more enhanced because you could be actually using the VPS to recreate the actual buildings and urban combat you're going to be walking down. This is a massive, massive thing that Niantic has created, and y'all trained it. Never played Pokemon Go, never had it on my phone, but y'all trained it. And by virtue of that, we might have basically more hardened soldiers in urban combat or better virtual tours and everything in between. And so I think this is an interesting one. It's a terrifying one. And what nobody's talking about is just how not private this is. And so I'm bringing that up. And so, hey, if you're a Pokemon Go player, best of luck to you. Best of luck to us all. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.